If you've been successful, you.
Hello. Greetings from the Room of Mirror studio. You're listening to Foster Brothers on Point. Today's date is February 6th, 2014. We're going to be covering the Apollo 20 space mission. It's not acknowledged. This mission, by the way, to the space buffs out there, when I say Apollo 20, you're thinking there was no Apollo 20. That is a possibility, but there's a lot of information floating around on the web about a secret mission. It was a joint mission, apparently, with the U.S. and the Soviet Union at the time, and basically to go to the backside of the moon and explore a crashed spacecraft.
That's right, Hayes, and man, do we have a show for everyone tonight. This topic really came to our attention within the past week, which we tend to keep up with all the, paranormal or conspiracy, politics, everything that's alternative news we follow, and somehow or another this fell off our radar until just recently.
Yeah, that's right, Tubbs. The Apollo 20 mission, from what I understand, the video that is available to view on YouTube, just type in Apollo 20, and you'll see everything from, it looks like some footage, a flyover footage of a spacecraft, that's apparently the one that was explored, to eventually it's not an alien there, and it's not really an autopsy, it's it looks like a human woman. She kind of looks like maybe someone you would see, maybe an Incan or Aztec or a South American Native Indian, judging by her features. And it's a real interesting view. So if you haven't ever seen that video, go to YouTube and just put in the search Apollo 20, and you'll get a few things. Also, some good reading on the subject is on a website beforeitsnews.com, and they've got the videos linked there too, and also some extensive reading.
That's right, and the Apollo 20 mission is the Black Ops mission to the moon that was tried to suppress by the Black Ops program the government runs. The Apollo 20 leaked video was published to YouTube on April 2007. It was released to the public on this man's deathbed, where he was holding on to this information and he had the footage. There's a few stories on how he came to acquire it. We'll get into that shortly. What's interesting that I found was the Hollywood movie Apollo 18, which supposedly never occurred, came out in 2011, which would have been a couple of years after the leaked footage, and that's curious to me, the timing of that, because I just feel like, were they trying to manipulate the public opinion on previous Apollo flights? What do you think, Hayes?
I think there's like most .gov or alphabet agencies out there, there is a level of secrecy. It could be argued some of it is necessary, some of it is not necessary. And NASA does not publicly acknowledge Apollo 20 or Apollo 18, 19, and 20. They're all officially they claim those missions were scratched. Now, this gentleman we mentioned, William Rutledge, he's the guy who leaked the video and most of all the information we have, because he seems to be the sole source. He does mention NASA employees by name. I'm not going to get into that because I guess unless you worked at NASA, we wouldn't know these people.
But Hayes, what was interesting is, with this being on the web for so long, there's been plenty of time for researchers and journalists to kind of investigate this, and what they've found is, so far, everything he said's correct. I think that they found one or two inconsistencies, which, without his back knowledge, he may have not known the difference anyway. So far, the story holds water. It's just a matter of NASA's never, acknowledged it. So there's the people out there that says if NASA says it didn't happen, then it didn't happen. It's like they could say that the Federal Reserve is federal, but we all know it's a private banking group.
Yeah, that's right, Tubbs. The main thing that interests me about the Apollo 20 information that's out there is the fact that, here's the thing. Technology, we had the technology, the United States had the technology back in '69 to put the first manned mission onto the moon. I've often found it kind of interesting that since then we don't have a base there. We aren't mining anything, if there is anything to mine. Well, I think there's water on the moon. That might be one of the main things, but at least it would be a good jump off point if we did have a base to do exploration, on some of the outer, starting, Mars and moving out from there. I feel like, and a lot of people say, well, we got so caught up in Vietnam and all the wars. That's what all the cash was, all this taxpayer dollars supposedly was spent on. I think the space program probably just went black ops. I feel like, maybe they did find something possibly on this Apollo 20 mission that could tie in that maybe they would have to revise a lot of the history books.
Let me get in just to the basic history of the Apollo mission so everyone's caught up. I'm going to go ahead and cue up the backgrounds that run through this. All right, the first Apollo mission was on February 26, 1966. The Apollo 11 was the first man landing on the moon. Now, the Apollo missions 1 through 10 was the development missions where they were orbiting the Earth, and they would go on to orbit the moon. And then there were some test landings of unmanned vehicles onto the moon. Apollo 11 through 17 were all the manned ones, except 13, which that was the botched mission. Now, the Apollo 20 apparently launched August 16th, 1976, so that gives you the timeline from the first mission, 1966, to 1976. So, basically within 10 years, they'd landed on the moon, discovered this, and then went black ops on us.
Yeah, that's right, Tubbs. The thing is, like I was saying a little while ago, if there has been an intentional cover-up of the real space, exploration at this point, it wouldn't surprise me. We've seen the recent revelations of the NSA and other agencies that are violating not only Americans' Fourth Amendment and basic rights that of the Constitution and Bill of Rights, but they've violated the rights of millions around the world. So that it's not a matter of would they lie about it? Sure, they would. There's definitely for whatever reason, that's speculation at this point. Getting back to the facts here, I hopefully some of you guys out there listening have got to the point where you've queued up the video. Maybe you've seen some of this video footage.
And if you're looking at the Blog Talk Radio for Foster Brothers on Point, we did post a link in the description.
That's right. And also, we're kind of at a breaking point here. We'd like to thank our sponsor, MyOneSupply.com. A great company. They sell everything from tactical holsters, Magpul items from magazines, Forian grips. They also carry really high-end quality used and new military surplus. So whenever you get a chance, definitely check out MyOneSupply.com.
So who was this leaker, Hayes? William Rutledge. William Rutledge was born in Belgium 1930, immigrated to the U.S. and worked in the aircraft and manufacturers Arvo and Chance Vought. He later worked for Bell Laboratories and then also in conjunction with the Air Force. Rutledge was said to have studied Soviet technology such as the M1 moon rocket, the Ajax plane project, the MiG's Foxbait 25. Said that he was skilled in computer navigation and had volunteered as an astronaut for the Air Force's manned orbiting laboratories.
Yeah, that's just some background on the person who leaked all these videos and the background information for Apollo 20. His name, once again, William Rutledge. You can probably definitely find some material on the
And he's been interviewed by multiple sources, and it was later in his years, supposedly on his deathbed, or when he became ill. So he's been vetted. It's not some kid doing animation in his parents' basement. This was a credible source that leaked this.
And this whole thing with the sole the mission objective was to explore an alien spacecraft that was on the moon's surface. And for years, I don't know how many of you guys follow Coast to Coast AM. I try to listen to that if I'm up. It's a evening radio show. There's a guest that frequently comes on their show called his name is Richard C. Hoagland. He's a former NASA employee, and he's often talked about how on the surface of the moon there are glass or crystal structures. He always talks about how for some reason NASA finds it in their interest to not release those photos or airbrush the photos, so it's not, the general public doesn't know exactly what's up there. And also, it's pretty, I guess you probably noticed from some of the NASA programs, Apollo, Gemini, they do use, some of these occultic symbols and occult, gods from mythology for whatever reason. That's kind of a dark subject within itself.
Hey, so let's actually touch on what the video consists of. There's apparently multiple videos. The link we provided is all the videos spliced and together, and there was another fellow that narrated it for us. I think it starts off with multiple scenes on the moon. From what I saw, there's some astronauts walking on the moon, very consistent with other moonwalks you'll see from the previous missions. What instantly piques your attention is the foreign spacecraft on the moon. The size of it, in my opinion, it probably had more than one purpose, or it could have had one purpose. That could have been to escape. The size was literally about the size of Manhattan, which is huge. Multiple, maybe hundreds or thousands of skyscrapers would fit into this. It's huge.
So you're basically, wherever this craft originated at, it was something similar to the biblical Noah's Ark, except in an advanced civilization with technology to reach other planets. There's also in the footage, it looks like a moon base, or maybe a spaceport, I guess would be more correct on that. It's strange. It also shows a astronaut collecting it could be computer chips, possibly silicone chips off of the ground.
I believe Rutledge's interviews kind of gave some of the details. When you watch the videos, you couldn't necessarily say for sure what he was collecting, but the sizes of what he was collecting looked in the nature. It could have been computer chips, a bunch of them actually. And Rutledge was kind of filling in the blanks, and you have to reference his interviews to get some of those finer points.
Yeah, and we were just talking about this, the city. There's also a abandoned glass or crystal city. It looks like, and this could have been, like I said, we're just putting the information out there to be looked at, because I can't say for sure this isn't a hoax. If it was a hoax, it's a pretty elaborate hoax. I don't see what the benefit of doing a hoax this large would be. It's not. I just don't see who would benefit from that.
And this is where I can fall back on my experience. I'd I studied computer graphics, in particular the Maya animation, which, DreamWorks uses. All the real high-end animations, whether it's explosions or, keyed out scenes where spaceships are flying through there. I've done that at university level. I have a pretty good understanding of, to do it right, you're talking hundreds of man hours, and it's always done in teams. Like professionally, they have server farms with farms of, analysts doing this sort of work. So it would have had to have been put together by a pretty large team, I think.
You're talking about like maybe something along the lines of DreamWorks
right.
to do a project, in this kind of scale.
Right.
And that, yeah, he's right. That is a lot of man hours, and for what purpose and what benefit of putting this kind of effort and time into it. The abandoned Crystal City, like we said, you can look at it. To me, it almost looks like something like an abandoned, like the City of Oz or something. As Dorothy and the rest of them are coming up over a hill and they see the Emerald City. It kind of, to me, it kind of has that appearance to it. However, I've never been to the moon, so I can't say to any extent what is actually up there, and that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of here.
But we did want to point out, though, the Crystal City scene, out of all the footage, would have been the one possibly easiest to forge. The other video clips we're about to cover were more detailed, more sophisticated, where the stage would have cost tons of money and man hours. And, one of the next ones is the photographs of astronauts walking on the moon, yet there appears to be space saucers or, UFO, the traditional disc-looking objects, part in the background, as if they were, had landed. Did you see that footage, Hayes?
Actually, I don't even. Do you have it on the show notes here?
It's not on the show notes. It was an image that I came across right up to the show, but it basically depicted an astronaut walking on the moon. In the background was 3 of these spacecraft, and they were sleek like a stealth fighter sleek, but way more advanced. So that's just one example.
I'm gonna have to look at that. There's also another aspect, and I have seen this in one of the videos. There's a body that they recovered and brought it back to the Apollo lander capsule, and I guess the nickname is Mona Lisa. Sorry. They claim the body was frozen when they found it. What I do find strange about it, there's tubes that are connecting from a central point on her forehead. One of the tubes connect, or actually 2 of the tubes come from that central point down to the eyelid, and then there's 2 more tubes that come from each eye, and they go to the upper and lower lip. And my speculation on that, I really, it could be maybe it's some kind of advanced system for controlling the craft. That's just my first glance speculation on that.
When you look at it, you can't help but think about the new Google glasses, how they've embedded technology into something so small you wear on your face. It does connect from the lips to the cheeks to the center of the forehead, which, we need to point out that's where the pineal gland is. And a lot of people have speculated, that actually has significance that's been undiscovered. Scientists currently cannot explain why that exists in the human body.
But they also claim that the pineal gland, which is, basically in the center of your brain, that it has to do with your creativity and, just our artistic mind, music, those particular functions. The one other thing that you'll see, they do a full scan of the lady, and like I said earlier, my thoughts are she does look like an indigenous person, maybe a descendant of a South American Indian tribe, possibly.
And for those of y'all on the internet, researching this, just look up Mona Lisa Apollo 20. You can do an image search through any of your favorite search engines besides Google, unless you want to be tracked.
Yeah, or you can use Start Page and probably bring some startpage.com. It's another search engine. Now, like I said, anybody who's joining us now, we are talking about the secret Apollo 20 mission.
And we were just talking about the Mona Lisa body, which the backstory on that is when they entered into the main spaceship, there were multiple objects. There was a base, there was the Crystal City, and then there was the spacecraft, which was as large as Manhattan. When they went on there, they went onto the deck, or I guess the control room of the spacecraft, and they found lots of bodies, and the bodies had been destroyed, actually, and they said it was as if there was a battle or something very tragic happened to them, like right on the last moments they were alive. But the Mona Lisa body was different because it had this apparatus attached to the head, and it was the only body found that was fully intact.
Yeah, that's right. I think we're kind of at a stopping point here. Just want to talk about our sponsor here, and that sponsor is MyOneSupply.com. We'd like you to visit that site whenever you get a chance, because they do help make this show possible. MyOneSupply.com, suppliers of fine firearm and tactical gear. MyOneSupply.com carries Magpul, Eberly Stock, Trigicon, EOTech, and many more top-shelf tactical brands. MyOneSupply.com offers genuine military surplus and survival items. From the battlefield to your front door, check out MyOneSupply.com.
So back to the Mona Lisa body. The question is this particular video fake out of the series? This one was well put together. It was very consistent. As advanced as any Hollywood movie could ever assemble a fake video. A lot of background features were control panels that very resembled any of the Apollo aircrafts.
Yeah, that is. I'm not sure. I know Hollywood can reproduce just about anything, but these look like some pretty old school solid state electronic boards, and you could. The realism, like I said, you'll just have to look at the video yourself and then form an opinion from there. And I'm still on the fence personally whether it's real or not. I mean, I know that they claim that the famous alien autopsy footage was debunked. Then a few years later they said, well, it's not debunked, and it's been back and forth with that footage. I suspect it's going to be a similar situation with this Apollo 20 footage. But
I do want to point out that no one has officially debunked it. And what was ironic is we were had our research team investigating this. We found that the only evidence anyone that was trying to say it was fake or debunking it was one point only, and I thought it was crazy. They said it does not exist, it did not occur for one reason, and that is NASA never has acknowledged it, so therefore it didn't occur. And I'm like, this is crazy.
I think everybody should have a problem with that explanation, because we know that unfortunately there's many alphabet agencies that do lie to the general public. Of course, it's for our own good, they claim, but you can't just go relying on what an alphabet agency says is real and what's not real.
If the video is to be debunked, for me to be satisfied, I want to hear testimony from the animation team and the Hollywood producers that assembled it, worked on it. That's number one. Number two, I want them to nitpick some of the inconsistencies, maybe like the control panels. I need to see some fine details, like evidence that this footage was manipulated from another Apollo mission footage. That's how you debunk this, and I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't either. It's like I said, apparently this footage was released in 2007, so it's not new. I guess it's new to me because I haven't come across it until just recently And, for those of you out there, NASA is steeped in the occult itself. A little digging will show you that around, when the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, one of the founders of JPL was Jack Parsons, or Jack Whiteside Parsons, who was also known as someone who ran with the OTO occult run by Aleister Crowley. And if you know who Aleister Crowley is, he was he was an occult leader that basically did rituals. He said his nickname, he wanted everyone to call him 666, Mark of the Beast, and that's pretty disturbing. Even on the surface, that a founder of JPL was even running with these kind of characters.
I want to touch. Okay, so some people do say I'm looking on the message boards that are coming through the chat, and it looks like there's some people saying that this is a hoax, and I haven't seen the evidence come through yet. My question is, why create a hoax of this magnitude, this much effort, without an agenda? Why spend millions on fake videos, release them, and not have an agenda? I think that there's two ways to look at it. Either it's real and we've just acquired some new information, or it's a hoax. If it's a hoax, what's the agenda, Hayes?
The agenda could be, if it is a hoax, to basically get people to focus on something that isn't anywhere close to the reality or the truth of the situation, like a COINTEL program, just putting out, anything to get people off the trail of what's really happening.
That's right. That's a good point. Or it could be something we quite haven't figured out yet. Maybe the hoax is yet to be revealed.
That's definitely a possibility.
But so what are the implications, Hayes, if the video is real? I'm sitting here thinking, I'm reading a message off the forum. It says, if the video is real, ... technology is way more advanced now than we thought.
I've always felt that way. Obviously I can't prove that. It just seems like for us to be technologically on the moon in '69, and the only excuse I've ever heard for us not having a base or a jump off point is we're spending too many resources on wars. So I think that's not even. I don't even consider that a legitimate excuse.
Well, it does prove that the government has secrets, and if the Mona Lisa footage is real, they have a lot more secrets about ancient civilizations, possible pre-flood technology now.
Yeah, that's a good point, and just the fact if we weren't the first ones on the moon, that changes a lot of history books, and I've often heard it thrown around, well, if they do discover aliens, that then all the world's religions are going to collapse. I doubt that very seriously. I think that's just another lame excuse, because if anything, it might, it may give more credence. It may strengthen their faith because they realize that God made many beings, not just humans.
That's right. There's a tie into all this, and one thing that Hayes and I have realized when we research the paranoia, the UFO concepts or conspiracies, we generally find that there's a good and evil theme to it, nonstop. The good and evil theme constantly appears. For us, we believe that there's a good and evil associated with God and the devil. That's our personal belief. But at the bare minimum, there's a good and evil factor to almost everything that we come across.
Yeah, you're right, Tubbs. And we're just about out of time, so we're going to go out with a little audio and music here for you.
If you've been successful, you didn't get there on your own. If you've been successful, you didn't get there on your own. If you've been successful, you didn't get there. been successful, you didn't get there on your own. If you've been successful, you didn't get there on your own. You didn't get there on your own. I'm always struck by people who think, well, it must be because I was just so smart.